Steel. It is Friday morning. Not exactly sure what your weekend is going to look like, but for many of our friends in the United States, this is a big weekend because it's the weekend that they're taking off. And there's a lot of things going on right now in this world. A little chaotic, a little confused, a little bit crisis orientated, and a little bit, wacky at times. I mean, if you are a follower of politics, then you know that it is definitely wacky and weird these days because the administration in the United States, of course, is bringing something new every day. And some of it is pretty interesting, but we're not here today to talk about that. Today, we're here to talk about you and me and how that each and every day can be such a meaningful situation. There's a phrase that I read this morning that simply is enjoy every day because life does not give you a rewind. So that means that every day that you live it to the fullest. And that can happen because of a mindset, of an attitude, a motive. You can make the decision that day by day, you're going to enjoy it to the fullness. Now, doesn't mean that every day that you have is a great day, but your mindset can turn a situation around. You can turn, let's say, for example, trouble into an experience, a negative emotion into a learning curve. You can ask yourself this question: okay, how can I benefit from this particular situation? What can I learn from this situation? How can I grow through this situation? Those are the type of things that really help us in those negative situations. I had one yesterday where I was dealing with something and I actually had to go out and spend about an hour talking to the Lord about the situation. I was saying, Lord, some of these things that are I'm going through right now are, you know, a little bit on the growing side, but I need your help. And when I came back, I felt, okay, we're heading on the right track. And that is so important. I often counsel you to involve the Lord in every situation that you're involved in. Reading God's word, which is the Bible, and of course, praying about these situations. But also, as well, recognizing that your reaction and your actions are actually choices. Did you know that? You and I will make choices every single day. We can choose, for example, if we're driving down the road and someone cuts us off, you can choose to hit the old horn and, let that person know that you are not happy about the situation. Now, there are times where you need to hit the horn because the simple fact is that it could be a dangerous situation. And you're doing it for the safety of both yourself and the other person. But don't just hit the horn because you're annoyed. Don't just cut somebody off because you're being selfish. I'm talking about courtesy. I'm talking about respect. I'm talking about empathy and compassion. It was interesting that a couple of days ago, I was going to meet one of my people from my church. And I was sitting there having, I believe it was a dinner at the time. A young lady walks up to me and says, "Excuse me, sir, do you happen to have $2 that you can hand me and help me get something to eat?" Now, at the time, I didn't have $2. I said, "I'm so sorry. I don't have that." But, it was interesting that she went to only myself and one other lady in the entire food court. And I thought to myself, oh, isn't that interesting? Now, I've told you in the past about the fact that no matter where I go, I seem to be attracting people that need help. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. And, but I think that it's wonderful to be able to help people. I think it's absolutely delightful to have that opportunity to be asked to be able to include in that person's life for just a moment. And we can make such a difference in someone's life in that moment. I was sitting one afternoon in on White Avenue in Edmonton, and I was sitting there having my supper at that time. I was at a particular place that I love to go and have their burger and their fries. And I was sitting there, and there was a young lady who was sitting just about 10 feet away. And she was sitting there, looking back at me, and I'm thinking, you look hungry. So I said to her after I'd finished my burger, I said, would you like these fries? And looked at me, she says, well, I'm not asking. I said, no, that's okay. I always buy a second can of Coke for my particular lunch, because many times I'm sitting out in the sunshine, enjoying the rays and having some supper and watching the world go by. And I said, listen, I have this extra can of Coke and I have these fries here. Would you like them? And she said, well, I'm not asking. I said, I know that. Would you like to have them? Sure, she said. So she sat down, and I said, I'm going to leave now. And she says, you don't have. I said, yes, I do. I've got other things to do. And as I walked away, I was watching her happily munch on the fries and also on the Coke. And I thought to myself, that's great. I'm glad that I'm able to help her and make her day. And that's what it's really all about. It's about helping others. It's about being a benefit to others. One of my favorite heroes is Mother Teresa. And Mother Teresa, of course, won a Nobel Prize for helping people. And they asked her one time, the reporter said, okay, how can you minister to the lepers in Calcutta? She said, I look at them as Jesus in his distressing disguise. You see, in Matthew chapter 25, it tells us that there's going to be a day of reckoning, a day where everything is going to be opened up. And there are going to be what we call the sheep and goat nations. Now, the sheep nations are those who follow the Lord and walk in compassion. The goat nations are those who basically walk for themselves. And in that day of accountability, what's going to happen is the Lord is going to say, you didn't do it to the least of me and these. And basically what he's saying is, if you don't help people, if you don't provide them with food, transportation, shelter, and clothing, if you don't, visit them, if you don't help them, you're not doing the will and plan and purpose of God. And there are two phrases that those people are going to hear. They're going to hear, depart from me, you worker of iniquity, or you're going to hear, well done, thou good and faithful servant, enter into my rest. Well, that's something that always kind of sits in the back of my mind. I want to hear, well done, thou good and faithful servant, enter into my rest. That's kind of a motivation behind that. And it's not a fear motivation. It's an actual motivation of love. It's a motivation of compassion. It's a motivation of action, that you're not just talking, you are actually doing. Now, remember, people don't always remember what you did or what you said. They always will remember how you made them feel. So make them feel that they are important. For example, when it comes to communication, you're always to look in a person's eyes. Look at their face. Let them know that you are genuinely concerned. Now, I've been to, professional conferences over the years. One of the things that really annoys me is I'm talking with somebody, but they're looking someplace else, as if to say, well, your conversation right now is okay. But when somebody better comes along, someone who's more important to me, then, I'll go visit with them. And the fact is that we're supposed to make each person feel important, as if they are, of course, worthy of our time and talents. And they really are. Everyone that we meet is very unique. I had this very interesting Facebook post this morning, which I read on my TikTok and will appear on this particular platform later on today. And it's called Weird. And it means that we are wonderfully, we are exciting, we are interesting, we are, of course, responsible and wonderful, and also as well, we are definitely one of a kind. And that's what you need and I, each one of us needs to be. Let us be who God created us to be. But let us also remember that we have a special place in someone's life. Someone is needing us today. Someone needs us to touch their lives. Let you be that person. Well, I hope that something that I've said today has sparked some interest and some action in your life. If you like what you've been hearing and seeing, I always encourage you to press the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, check out the many shorts that I have here on YouTube, and I hope that they'll be inspirational as well. My name is Robert Dean Steele. Thank you for, of course, being part of my time today. Press the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel.